What is going on, my Atomic Cycle Works friends? So today we're doing something a little different. We're working on an Indian Chief seat, and all we have to do is push it forward an inch and a quarter and drop it 1 inch. So should be a quick seat repair, but we don't know if we could do it. We haven't done that to the specific model yet, and usually you can't. What ends up happening is if you move it forward an inch and a quarter, this seam's supposed to be here, but you really can't move it forward because the seat's already been on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to bring this forward and cut it so that the rider sits down and lower in it. So not only do you get that push forward, but you're lower in the bike, and it will make you feel like you moved way forward. So your feet are going to be better on the controls. Your arms will be closer to the bars. Everything should be good. So this seat here says it's made in Spain. And one thing I've noticed is that there's a couple seat makers in Spain that are doing some pretty nice stuff. This seat here is a fairly good quality seat. I mean, the bottom's very nice. It's a very nice factory seat. The plastic's very firm. It's well made. It looks well made. Stitching's nice. I mean, it's a nice seat, a little seat. So let's see what we can do. So we'll get right into it. We're going to pull all the staples off first. Normally, I tell you when we're removing staples, you always want to come at it from this side, because if you go from this side and twist up, you could rip the seat. But because it's such a deep pocket on the seat, it's a pain. So I'm going to do the opposite of what I tell you, as I normally do. And I'm just going to go in very carefully, stick our staple remover in there and twist it, and make sure not to rock it back and damage the edge. You see me do this a million times. We just get the staple remover under it and twist it. Don't pull it. And now we're going to grab our dikes. Just remove all these staples. Let's see what we have here. So sometimes I'll only do the front half of the seat. You got to be careful when you do that, because when you're doing a foam modification and you have the seat cover in the back here, it's very easy for you to, like when you're grinding or cutting, to accidentally cut the actual cover. Let's see what we have here. So this is pretty common. So a lot of the European seat manufacturers, whether it's in Europe or Japan, they do this little strip around the edge for you to staple through. It's pretty common. Pull the staples out from the bottom, all the visible staples, but this actually has a listing or something holding it down. Yeah, it goes right through the foam. So we're gonna pull this up, and now we're gonna have to look underneath the seat foam here and see what's holding on. Okay, so this here little flapper here, which is going to cause us some problems. We're going to have to modify that, because since we're doing the seat, we have to move it forward. This would keep us from being able to go as far forward as we need to be. So what you see here, so this is like a style of the seat I like when the seat foam comes off the pan. And if you watch any of our previous videos and we talk about seats, we do a lot of seats. So a previous video, we talked about like Mustang seats, Corbin seats, Saddlemen, Lepera, all that, and how everyone is unique in their own way. The two main differences I find, and I think Corbin's the only one that does it their own way. Most times you'll actually have a seat pan and you'll have a seat foam, right? So if you want to make a seat foam, you make an encapsulated mold. So you have a top and a bottom, a clamshell mold that sandwiches together. You inject your liquid foam in there, it expands, and you get a piece of foam that pops out. You usually have like plastic or a releasing agent to let it pop out, and you have a nice finished piece of foam, right? Same thing with the pan. With the pan, whether you're doing fiberglass, metal, plastic, a lot of these will actually have a flat sheet that gets heated up, and it gets through and gets vacuum formed to a table, and it sucks down and it comes up with the cool design, and you have a finished pan, top and bottom finish. Corbin, when we get to a Corbin seat, I'll show you, they do a totally different manufacturing process. They actually have like one mold. They fiberglass inside that mold, and you have a seat pan, and then they inject their foam in there. So when it comes out, your foam is actually stuck to the pan, it pops out. I don't personally like that way for redoing seats. They've had a way of changing their manufacturing process. So like they have a really material, leather or vinyl, that usually goes on the side of the seats, and that hides any of the leftover strands of fiberglass. So they kind of had to, I think, add another procedure to cover the fact that they're jumping over a procedure. And a lot of times when we get a Corbin seat, the first thing we do is pull the seat cover off, and we have to clean all that up. So sometimes you'll have fiberglass that's up here on top of the foam, and if you put a nice material on there, even with the So Foam, sometimes that fiberglass hairs could actually pull apart, and you could see them through it, and it looks like it doesn't look good for us. So for us as a custom seat builder, to customize on a Corbin seat sometimes is a lot harder when it's a fiberglass pan with the injection molding that's all done in one clamshell mold. So anyways, back to the seat. What we have to do is make this seat 1.25 inches forward and 1 inch down. And I'm not gonna, even though the customer, we were talking about 1.25 inches forward, he needs to move that far forward, But if we move him an inch and a quarter forward and drop it down and rake the seat like we want to, he's actually gonna be way farther forward. And what's tough is this seat here, right? You're really balls to tailbone, here you are, right? Now, if we bring him an inch and a half forward, you're here, and all your pressure is going to be up front here, and you are going to have no seating area at all, because as this comes in, it gets narrower. And the average butt cheek is probably, you know, around 12 to 14 inches in that area, and that's cheekbone to cheekbone. So if we were to measure the seating surface of this seat, right where your cheekbones go, you're talking 10 inches. So the average person's tailbone or cheekbones are going to be right on the outside of this seat, which is not comfortable. And if we move you forward, now your cheekbones are going to be, so say we move them an inch and a half forward or inch and a quarter, so now your cheekbones are going to be right around here. So you're talking, this seat's 8.5 wide, so your cheekbones are actually going to be over here. So not only as we move it down and forward, we have to widen this a little bit for them. And the hard part about doing a seat like this with these mods, there's a lot to factor in. So if we widen this seat, it counteracts the fact that we're lowering the seat, because most times when you have a shorter inseam, you want to have cut material off the sides, because you're going to go down and your legs are going to be like this. So if you cut material off the side, you come down, your legs are still like that. But if you cut the material off the sides, then your legs come in. If your legs come in, for every inch or two that we could bring your feet in, it adds exponential leg room for you and stability on the bike. So when you're standing up, you have complete flat foot. So there's a lot that we have to factor in. So ideally, I would like to move this forward and widen it a lot, so he has cheekbone, but knowing that the reason that we're doing it is because we need to go down and narrow this, it's going to be kind of tough. So I'm going to keep it at this width, and what we'll do is we'll cut it down, and well, actually, we're going to cut it down, and I'm going to show you. First, we're going to cut this to 1 inch down. All right, let me grab a Sharpie. Let me get the cover out of here for now, because we don't want to damage that. And we are going to mark 1 inch. A lot of times I glue the seat foam to the pan when we're doing this. I'm actually, right now, I'm continuing the rake. So if you look, here's the rake of the foam. And then we're going to drop them down 1 inch. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, right? So if you picture this here, we're going to go right back to the top here. And we want to look. So this seat pan does go up a lot. So it's going to be a challenge. So if you look at the bottom of the, like if you have a seat pan and you want to go down, first thing you do is look at this. So this is going to screw the pooch right here, because this is a very high wall. So this seat pan is actually way higher than it appears. So when we pull this off, you're looking here, you have all this extra width of the seat. Now, like on a lot of the Harleys, when we do it, their seats have, you know, a side, nothing as big as this, but we end up doing, we'll make a pan from scratch, and we'll actually get rid of all this stuff, get rid of all these stanchions, and have the pan actually form fitted over everything. So it's cool, but there's a lot to factor in, because you have a battery down there, you have a monoshock, any of that type of stuff that goes across that seat pan, those are going to be obtrusions that are going to poke you in the butt. So like a lot of the newer Harleys that have the monoshock, which sucks, stupidest invention ever, you have a shock up your butt. If we lower you or move you back, you feel that. So it's a really tough challenge. So what I'm going to do is I am going to glue this on here. We're going to glue the foam on, and hold on. All right, so I just sprayed some contact adhesive on here. Now we're going to drop the pan back in. We want to try to line it up the first shot. With the high side walls, it's harder. You see I put my hand in here to keep the foam from sticking, because with the contact adhesive, a lot of times you only get the first shot. This actually, I got a little problem there, but for the most part, this went together pretty good. All right. Okay, so I just went through and did that. And you can see here we changed the profile quite a bit. So we're gonna have to modify this quite a bit. This one here actually has a hole right here. I'm actually going to take this down even farther. So what we're going to end up doing is, sometimes we'll do this. We go right down to the seat pan and start all over. We're going to have to do that in this one here. All right, so you see what we did is, for some odd reason, they have these holes. I do not like that. I do not like grid eggs and ham. I do not like the foam I am. I'm gonna go a little bit more because there's still a big gap here. I took it off in sections just because I don't want to go too deep and just have the blades on our saw just bottom out on the seat pan and mess them up. So now, we run into this a lot. A lot of people will say, I need to go down 3 or 4 inches. And you'll sit there and say, we can't because you have a seat pan that we have to deal with, right? So this seat here, which I just threw the foam away, but we're going to go over and show you exactly what we did. So we took second trim at the same time. We took this off. We took this off. And we took this off, right? This, oh, I'm sorry. Did I just do it backwards? No, that's right. This off, and this was this off. And this on, okay? So you can see what we took off here. We didn't take off that much. Our inch mark was here originally, right? And we end up taking off about a 1/2 inch more, and we're on a seat pan, which means we're only going to be able to bring him up, bring him down, because I have to put at least 5/8 of an inch of material on this seat. So we're going to end up repadding this up and building it up. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this out first so we get our 1.25 inch. I'm not going to do a full 1.25 inch because I don't think if we do, we'll be able to get the seat pan or seat cover back on. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm actually going to shave the sides and see what it looks like with the sides shaved. All right, so I shaved the sides a little bit, brought it in here. Now you can see we brought this to where inside of your legs are going to be is 9 inches, which is very narrow for a seat. And then your back here at your widest point is only 11 inches, which is not very wide for a seat. Okay, so now you can see it's looking a little stupid, right? We got a really huge shelf wall here. You know, a lot of people, it's funny, I want to talk about the shelf because a lot of people see these seats and they're like, think that this whole wall style seat is new. It's been out for like, we were doing this 30 years ago. So like, this isn't really a wall shelf for people that are doing stunts and stuff like that. Originally, this was a drag seat. So on drag bikes, you would actually have a wall like this because you want to be planted into it. Sometimes we'd actually hook it back. And we used to do that a lot with the drag bikes because when the drag bike scene was hot, kind of like the stunt bike scene's hot now, that was the popular thing and everybody wanted that. But the problem we found is that it's great when you're launching, but you don't ride your bike like that. Not like a drag bike. You actually sit up there. So we had to start bringing it back. And then we got to a happy medium, which is somewhere around this point. So we've been doing these wall style seats for over 30 years now. And it's just kind of, it's a drag seat. It's literally a drag seat. Let's go through and we're gonna put some foam on here and bring this forward next. All right, so I cut out an oversized piece of foam and I sprayed glue on both sides. And I am gonna stick it on here. Now we'll trim it. Okay, so you see the modifications we just did, right? You can see how far we went. So I'm going to throw this seat up here, the cover on here, so we can see exactly how far out of whack this is. That's why it's tough sometimes. Like we have a lot of seats. Like this one we want to reuse the factory cover. It's a brand new seat. We have another one we're doing that we're going to make a custom seat on. But when you're doing this, you want to put the seat covers on it and see where we're looking at, what we're looking at. Some of the Harley seats, a lot of times we'll actually free float it, and I'll show you what that is. I prefer not to because I don't like how it is. I like a consistent good look, but if it's a seat where you ride and you don't care about the cover, you could actually free float it. So you can see this one needs to be pulled down. It's not going to be able to be free floated. So now this seat here, obviously you can see the new seam here. We're going to have to try to pull this really far forward and make it look normal, which is going to be really a challenge. I think I'm going to end up rounding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to radius this and round this back because he's going to be sitting so far forward now that it's going to be crazy. So you look at it here, and this seam which was literally in the crack of the seat before, is now way the heck up here. So what we're gonna have to do is heat this, stretch this, pull it. So we want to bring this forward as much as we can. This is just barely gonna go around. So they don't give you any wiggle room on this seat, which is, as far as, it's kudos to them because it's a very good fitting seat cover. Like their edging for their butt seam to go down and get stapled is right on the money, which sucks for us because it doesn't give us any room to stretch or do this seat. And then a lot of people are like, well, can you just replace this section? By the time we replace one section, we might as well just do the whole seat cover over because you have to cut every stitch out. You have to make sure that all the stitching goes through the holes. It actually costs more money to do it that way than to actually make a seat from scratch. So what I'm gonna do now, looking at this, you can see this is not gonna be super comfortable. What I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna rake this back a little bit because honestly, if we drop him down an inch, which again, we don't have the foam in the bottom here yet, so it's gonna be we're gonna be a little bit more, but if we drop him down all the way down as far as we were gonna go, the seat's gonna be baggy, it's gonna stretch out, and then it's just not gonna look right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our foam in here now on the bottom. I'm gonna angle this back a little bit and get rid of this because this isn't gonna be a back support. It's like, there's a happy medium. You have your butt, your tailbone, and then back support. So like back support for your backrest is gonna be in your lower back, and your tailbone is, probably 6 inches, 7 inches lower. So there's this little spot where you don't really get a lot of movement. I find what ends up happening is when you sit on the bike, your initial thing, you're sitting on it, you're fine. That back support's fine. But when you get on the highway or you really want to cruise, having too much there pushes you in the back, and then it's not comfortable. So let's put the bottom foam in, rake this back a little bit, and see where we're at. All right, so I just put the 1-inch foam on here, and I use the firmer foam. This is where talking to the customers is super important because when you buy a factory seat, they're designed a specific way. So what was funny is when I was at Mustang Seats years ago with Al, he pretty much sits on the bike, so every seat is set up for him. So if you're his height, weight, and riding style, you like the way he rides, you would fit great on his bikes. And with us, we're always doing different stuff, and we always get the oddities: super tall, super short, super wide, super thin, super normal. And this one here, it's tough because what happens is you could be 4'9" and 500 pounds, or you could be 4'9" and 60 pounds. And it changes the foam that you're gonna use. So what ends up happening is, now that we cut this down, you saw the seat pan's really low. So we need to put a different foam in there. We could put a super soft foam in there, and then the customer can sit on it, and it might feel nice at a minute, but then he starts riding for a half an hour, and then it starts to break through, and then you're basically sitting on the seat pan. We could put a super hard foam in there, and then it's firm right out of the gate, but on a long ride, it doesn't break down. But if you're 4'9" and 60 pounds, it's gonna feel hard as a rock. So that's why you'll see, like on our questionnaire on our website, it asks you height, weight, riding style. When we say riding style, it's like, do you like riding like Big Bird? Do you like riding deep inside the bike? Do you like to lean forward, or do you like to lean back? All that type of stuff really matters, because when we do a seat, it's for you. When the other companies do a seat, they make it for the general public. And honestly, I would say there's a good 80% of the world that buys a seat, throws it on, just rides their bike and doesn't even feel it. But that last 20% wants to ride their bike in comfort. And a lot of those guys, sometimes it's funny because I find some of the guys that tour the most or ride the most or do the most are the odd size ones. You got a guy that's 4'9" and 60 pounds. You got a guy that's 6'8" and 300 pounds. So it's like a really weird thing. So anyway, I chose to go with a medium firm foam here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our transition. I want him to sit in that pocket, and we're gonna change it. So I don't want a sharp rake here, because if we do have the sharp rake, the seat's gonna look like hell. And this up here is not gonna do anything but hurt him if you're in that position. So first things first, we're gonna take and cut this back a little bit, right? It cuts back a little bit, and then we wanna go down, and I want some sort of radius. Come from the front here. I want this at the factory height because we don't have the foam here, the bike here. Okay. So now, because this is firm, he's still going to be only This is like a 1/2 inch away from the seat pan right now, which is too close. I don't care how tall, how short, how big, how skinny, you know, it's too close. You're gonna feel that. Unless you just jump on this thing, go 100 feet and then park it, it's not worth your effort. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna actually test fit the seat cover one time, see where we're at. It's hard doing these videos because they always tell you, don't tell you what you're gonna do, show you. And I always have a tendency to tell you what we're about to do and then show you, some double whammy in you. So we're tucking this back in. We're gonna bring this around, put this where it has to be. We know this seat cover has to be centered and it has to be underneath the crown. And then here we go. This is the hard part. We have this one has to be right here. We can't go back. If we do, you're gonna see that material on there. I can go through and sew this on there. You look, see where this wants to be. This is where this wants to be, right? So you see that's a giant wall here. That's insane. But it pulls away, and we don't want it to pull away here. So now I'm gonna try to get this forward. We're gonna pull this down because I want this tight. This is gonna be tight as heck. And you can see by doing that little bit of a radius now, instead of having a sharp edge here, pushing it out, it looks like it flows back a little bit. I'm actually going to do a tiny bit more here. I'm gonna rake this back a little bit more, and then we're gonna grind the foam, make it look perfect, and we're gonna add one section of a comfort foam on here. So originally he wanted to come forward 1/4 of an inch, go down an inch. We're down an inch, and we are forward about 1 inch down here. So now I'm gonna radius this a little bit more. What I'm gonna do, I'm actually bringing down this seat a little bit. So this will give us a little more room for the seat cover. Matter of fact, we're gonna take 1/4 of an inch off of the back, because it's not gonna change the comfort, it's not gonna change the look, but what it's gonna do is just give us a little more for that seat cover to scoot forward. So you figure underneath the seat is obviously foam, right? The more foam you have, the smaller the cover's gonna be tighter, right? So we get rid of foam here, now it gives us the ability to move it forward or back. Yes, it narrows it a little bit when it brings it down, so the seam could fall down, but what we're gonna end up doing is probably, well, I don't know if we're gonna be on the back, but we could put, if we have to, we could put a 1/4 inch or 1/16 inch sew foam on there, and that'll add a little bit to it, but it's soft enough that we could pull it, and it just gives us some wiggle room. So I am gonna go grind this down really quick, and I'm not gonna bring you over for that because I gotta go do it in the other building, and then I will be BYB. So I just shaved this down, and what I did is I took about 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch of foam off all the way around the seat, because we need to move the seat forward and we need to compensate for the material that we lost without making it look different. And this is where it gets kind of tricky. So now I'm just gonna put this back in. We're gonna test fit it again. I still gotta put a comfort foam in here, but we're just gonna test fit it in each stage to make sure. So I can already feel it's looser in the back, which is nice. And then this is actually, you can feel I'm not pulling as hard, but it's still really tight here. So I'm gonna pull this here. Let me take this back. I wanna go right up to this front here. I'm gonna pull this hard up here. I don't know why it seems like even though I took more off, it seems like it's smaller now. So this holds where it's at, and this is here. So I tell you what, this is going to be a nightmare to get this cover on. I can tell already, and not just get it on, but get it on and look right. But we'll do it. We've done worse before. The problem is that I was going to reuse the strap here to pull through, but where it's located now, it's not in a good place. If I put it through here, we're going to be pulling the seat back there, and we don't need to do that. We need to go down here. And one thing I would have to say that sucks about this seat, which is going to bite us in the ass, is instead of using like well, actually, I don't know what this is. So they must have, oh, this is just like for like an embroidery material they put on the back. So this shiny stuff does not seem like it's sticking well to the vinyl, right? No, it didn't. So see, I'm grabbing and pinching both sides and pulling it. And this is why you see me a lot of times where I glue this down, because there's a high probability that we're going to pull this and there could be some bubbles in between the stitching, and we don't want that. So let's get rid of this flapper thing. Can't use it. We're not going to use it, so we're going to lose it. And now let's see if that helped us or hurt us. That gone. That actually feels like it helped us a lot. Yeah, that helped us quite a bit. All right. So now I'm going to put the comfort foam on here. because we're still not as high as we need to be. I wanted to put the comfort foam on there and then a 1/4 inch foam all the way around this thing, like a so foam. I don't think we're going to be able to because it's going to make it, the tolerance is that tight. Because a 1/4 inch so foam squished down is about a 1/16 of an inch. So I think if we do a 1/16 of an inch and a 1/16 of an inch, that's an 1/8 inch plus a 1/16 of an inch and a 1/16 of an inch is another 1/8 inch, and a 1/16 of an inch here is another 1/16 of an inch here. Well, actually, yeah. Well, a 1/4 inch, well, technically it's a quarter, but when we squeeze it, it'll reduce it, but that's only gonna be the sides, it's not gonna be the front, blah, blah, blah. Let's try it out and see. I went through, I had to put 1/4 inch so foam on the sides here. I didn't want to, but there's certain things that you could save yourself some time, not time, but just trouble. So with these ones, there's a parting line going around the edge of the seat. Or not a parting line, it's just, well, it is a parting line. No, it's not a parting line. Make up your mind, Ed. It's actually just the edge of a mold where the foam comes to a point. A lot of times where foam comes to a point, it actually gets a hard edge on it. So I could go through and try to trim it, which I did sand some of it, but if you miss any of it or there's any hard foam, when you pull the seat cover through, it's not gonna look good. And I don't wanna take that chance. And it's gonna be a little harder to get the seat cover on and make it look good, but I think in the long run, it'll save our tail a little bit. I just stuck it in there, put it in the back, just trying to see where it's at. I just glued it across here. In the beginning, when I looked at the seat, right here was kind of an issue, and it's still gonna be a little bit of an issue because it's just how the seat's sewn. Because of the dielectric stitch, where I glued it, it looks like a little pucker, but I'm not worried about that because we're gonna move that. Right now, I'm just gonna go through and center the front and the rear of this seat. We're gonna start with the basics here. Staple the front and rear first. Make sure it's centered. This one does not have a mark where the center is. Same thing on the back here. Center's right there. Okay, so now we got the front and back centered. I'm going to pull this around. We have to get this down really far. I want to try to get this down without gluing it. So this is going to be a challenge. I think we might have to glue it actually. We'll see in a second. This material actually is very thin, so when you heat it up, it wants to stretch, so that might help us. It looks a little thicker on the sides, but it's actually not. I'm gonna start by pulling it right on one of the hard seams, because if we stretch the hard seam, it's gonna pull the soft material down with it. We'll throw a staple in there. Same thing on the back here. Pull on the seam. These are just temporary staples. So basically, because of the dielectric stitch logo here, I know that if we pull this down, if we don't glue this, it's gonna be a problem. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull our staples off. We're gonna glue it and try to see if that does it better. So what I want to do is I want to pull all this stuff really tight. This is not pushed down yet. See how those wrinkles, that's what I was worried about from the beginning. So we're going to heat this up here. I'm going to stretch the crap out of this. It definitely pulled a lot farther. So you can see by pulling it out, a lot of those wrinkles already came out. I don't want to over pull it because if I do, there's a high possibility that it's gonna be too stretched out. Then when I put this in, it could release. So I want it just right. So I'm gonna heat this up now. And if it goes in with ease, we're good. If I have to fight it, then we're gonna have to loosen stuff up a little bit. So that literally just barely touched it. And you can see there, see that? So you can see how modified the seat is based off this seam was at the edge of the seat. So this came down and then out. So we did a serious modification on this. I got a little pucker here, but I didn't pull that one yet. And the same thing here. Haven't pulled this side yet. I am using stainless steel staples on this again, so it doesn't rust out. So I got to be careful because this material wants to overheat real fast. So I pull that tight. It stretched very easily with heat. Well, it's almost too easy. All right, seat cover is on, and you got to see us modify an Indian Chief seat. Well, I almost was at the point where I didn't think it was going to work. Reasons why it did work is because this material actually is super stretchy when you heat it. And I did not think this was going to come out well because of that material that's not glued to the actual vinyl. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This time it worked. It looked very nice. It's a, I think if you saw the seat, you probably wouldn't realize that it's been completely modified. It looks very stock. This little groove was, even though I keep looking at it, it drives me crazy. It was in the seat originally, so that's just how it was sewn for this pouch or pocket for the backrest. That's it. So now I can notify the customer, let them know the seat's ready to roll, and hopefully it works out great for them. If you like this video and you want more, please remember, like, share, follow, subscribe, ring the bell. We appreciate you taking the time to watch our videos.